Hare Krishna, welcome to this 18-day session on the systematic study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we begin today's session, I shall chant a few prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayeta Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, I would like to welcome once again everyone to this 18-day session on the systematic study of the greatest among all the Vedic scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains 12 cantos, 335 chapters, and Grantho Ashtadasha Sahasraha, 18,000 verses and shlokas. We have been discussing the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that contains 19 chapters and 808 shlokas. We have heard the wonderful description of the scene at the sacred place of Naimisharanya, wherein the sages ask many questions to Suta Goswami. We have also heard the fascinating accounts of the previous histories of Narada Muni as well as Vedavyasa and the background for the composition of this greatest literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, by the great sage Vedavyasa. We have also heard the amazing prayers offered by Kunti, Bhishma Deva, the residents, especially the female residents of Hastinapura, and also by the residents of Dwaraka to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. And we have also heard the superhuman and extraordinary birth of the principal hearer, Shrota, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit is the grandson of Arjuna and Subhadra and the son of Abhimanyu and Uttara. Now we shall take up today the analysis of the 13th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which there is the description of the attainment of liberation by one of the most incapable, ineligible, unexpected characters from the Mahabharata. So how this person became eligible to attain the highest platform of mukti or moksha, liberation, in a very, very short duration of time. So that character is the blind king Dhritirashtra. And although Dhritirashtra right from the beginning was a completely materialistic person, absorbed in material activities and material calculations to support and encourage only his children to assume power at Hastinapura. So Dhritarashtra is explained to be blind not only physically but also from the spiritual perspective. Many times it is mentioned in the Mahabharata that Dhritarashtra was not only physically blind but he was completely blinded by his selfish affection towards his family members. So Dhritarashtra, although seemingly ineligible, incapable of advancing towards the spiritual path and to attain moksha or liberation, also attained moksha just by one factor, and this is the main factor by which all the incapable, ineligible people of this world can also have the hope of attaining the highest achievement of moksha or liberation. So Dhritarashtra attained this by the intervention, by the guidance of the pure devotee, his younger brother Vidura. So this is the most important requirement for any person to attain spiritual success. Attainment or achievement of success on the spiritual path is by two means. One is called sadhana siddhi and the other is called kripa siddhi. Sadhana siddhi refers to the success in spiritual practices by one's own sadhana, by one's own efforts and one's involvement in spiritual practices. Whereas the second kind of siddhi or perfection is attained by kripa or by mercy. This is the very, very special mercy that is given directly by the Supreme Lord or his representatives like Vidura. So in this chapter, the 13th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is a description of the amazing attainment of liberation by Dhritarashtra. Suta Goswami continues to narrate, Suta uvacha vidurastirthayatrayam maitreyādatmano gatim gyatva agad hastinapuram tayavapta vivitsitaha. It is explained in the Mahabharata and also later in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Vidura, who was most affectionate to the Pandavas and would always advise Dhritarashtra as well as the evil intentioned sons of Dhritarashtra headed by Duryodhana not to bear any malice and not to have deceit towards the Pandavas, was before the battle of Mahabharata was greatly insulted by Duryodhana and his brothers. So at that time Vidura left from Hastinapura and went on a Tirthayatra, a pilgrimage, and therefore Vidura personally did not participate in the battle of Mahabharata at Kurukshetra. Now after the battle was concluded, Vidura, after going through duration in Tirthayatra on a spiritual journey of a pilgrim, what exactly was done by Vidura is very elaborately and beautifully described in the third and fourth cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Basically, Vidura, as he travelled to various places of pilgrimage, finally came to Vrindavana, where he met one of the greatest devotees of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Uddhava, and later on the directions of Uddhava, Vidura further continued and reached the holy place of Gangadvara or Haridwara, and at Haridwara he met the great sage and devotee Maitreya, and he accepted Maitreya as his spiritual master, as his guru, and heard many spiritual instructions. So it is mentioned here that Maitreyad gyatva agad hastinapuram tayavapta vivitsitaha Maitreyad atmanogatim. From Maitreya Muni, Vidura heard many spiritual instructions, especially about the final emancipation of the soul, the final destination of the spirit soul, Atmanogatim, and after that, Gyatva Agad Hastinapuram, he returned back to Hastinapura. So after Vidura came back to Hastinapura, he was received by all the residents of Hastinapura with great joy and jubilation. Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthira, tam bandhumagatam drishtva dharmaputraha sahanujaha dhritarashtro yuyutsuscha sutaha sharadvata pritha. So at that time, when Vidura returned back to the palace at Hastinapura, all the inhabitants, Yudhishthira, his younger brothers, the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, and everyone hurried to receive and welcome Vidura, who had been away during the battle of Mahabharata. And Vidura was always the best well-wisher of all the family members at Hastinapura. So everyone had great and special affection towards Vidura. The instructions of Vidura are very exalted and very sublime. They form a section in the Mahabharata, in the Vedic scriptures, known as Vidura Niti. Vidura Niti contain many moral as well as spiritual instructions for advancement, both on they provide the correct guidance both on the material as well as on the spiritual paths for the entire humanity. So when Vidura returned, everyone received him very happily. So he was nicely received by all the members of the Pandavas of the Kuru dynasty. He was fed very well, he took some rest, and after some time, when everyone gathered, Yudhishthir Maharaj addressed his uncle. He is the younger brother of his father Pandu. So they are three brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura. So Yudhishthira now addressed in the assembly where everyone was assembled. He addressed Vidura and offered him many nice glorifications. Yudhishthira told him, Yudhishthira uvacha api smarathano yushmad pakshachaya samedhitan vipadghanad vishagnader mochitayat samatrikaha. Yudhishthira reminded Vidura that you have acted always as our most beloved and our best well-wisher. Pakshachaya samedhitaha. Yudhishthira explains that all of us, the Pandavas, grew up just like small birds under the protective wings of yours. So Vidura had that very special affection towards the Pandavas, and he gave many indications in order to protect the Pandavas from the evil intentions and the atrocities committed by the Kauravas, especially by Duryodhana towards the Pandavas. So in this way, Yudhishthira further continued to glorify the very great personality Vidura by saying that actually you went on a pilgrimage to the many sacred and holy places, but actually great pure devotees and personalities of your status, of your level and order, do not actually need to go to any places of pilgrimage, because you yourself, great advanced spiritualists and transcendentalists, are themselves places of pilgrimage. In 1.13.10, Yudhishthira has given this very, very beautiful understanding that Bhavadvidha Bhagavataha Tirthabhuta Swayam Vibho Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantasthena Gadabhrita. Bhavadvidha Bhagavataha, great pure devotees, Bhagavatas, like your good self, O Vidura, Tirthabhuta Swayam Vibho, you yourself are places of pilgrimage, because Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani, in fact, wherever you step, wherever you travel, that place becomes a Tirtha Kshetra, or a place of pilgrimage. So, in fact, the reason being Swa Antasthena Gadabhrita. Gadabhrita is another name of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, one who carries the Gada or club by name Kaumodaki in his hand, and therefore another name of Krishna is Gadabhrita. So because pure Bhagavatas or devotees like Vidura, Swa Antasthena, always carry the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, because they have realized their soul as well as the super soul, the Paramatma Shri Krishna in the core of their hearts. So they are completely freed from all material contaminations, and therefore they have reached the stage of self-realization and God-realization, and therefore a place of pilgrimage is sanctified by the presence of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. And the Bhagavatas, the great pure devotees, carry that same Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of their hearts, and therefore they are verily the Tirthas, they are also places of pilgrimage, and wherever they travel, wherever they step, that place gets converted, even an ordinary place gets converted to a place of pilgrimage, a Tirtha Kshetra, by the presence of great pure devotees like Vidura. So Vidura still went on pilgrimage not for his purification, but to purify the places of pilgrimage. It is also explained in the scriptures that when ordinary people congregate and come to places of pilgrimage, by their coming, arrival, presence, they leave the places of pilgrimage, the Tirtha Kshetras, are having the spiritual potency to absorb the material contaminations and the sins of the ordinary people who arrive there. But when they become overburdened with all these contaminations left by the pilgrims who come, so the arrival of great Bhagavatas of the level of Vidura is for the purpose of purifying the places of pilgrimages which may have become overburdened with enormous quantities of sins and contaminations left by ordinary people, ordinary pilgrims. So Yudhishthira Maharaj in this way glorifies his uncle Vidura, and they have many wonderful discussions. Vidura stayed now at Hastinapura for some duration, for a few months, and after that Vidura, who had always acted as the best well-wisher, especially of his elder brother Dhritirashtra. Dhritirashtra always had been blinded by his selfish affection towards his sons, especially towards Duryodhana. So now Vidura gave his most valuable spiritual instructions to the completely materially absorbed Dhritarashtras. These instructions, which are found in 1.13.18 onwards up to 1.13.28, are very, very valuable instructions given by Vidura not only to Dhritarashtra but to all the people of this world. These instructions are very heavy, very direct and very concise, and they can immediately enlighten a person about the value and importance of taking up the spiritual path and way of life. These instructions by Vidura may seem to be very strong, very harsh, very stringent, but the words of a great personality, of a spiritualist, are meant to speak the truth. In fact, to speak the absolute truth. A guru, a spiritual master, is not supposed to simply speak words which are pleasing to his audience, which are favorable, and just be a soft-spoken flatterer of the people of the audience. The name Guru also means heavy, very heavy. So the instructions of the spiritual master, of a bona fide guru, may sometimes be very strong and harsh, but these are very essential and required to cut the strong knots of material attachment of the living entities in this samsara, in this material world. So just like you need a sharp sword or a knife in order to cut strong ropes, you need a very strong weapon, a sharp weapon, in order to cut strong shackles. So likewise, strong instructions, sharp instructions are required to cut the knots of material entanglement of the living entities. So what were these wonderful instructions? Evam griheshu saktasya pramattanam grihehaya atyakramad avighyataha kalaha paramadustaraha. Insurmountable time imperceptibly overcomes all those who are completely absorbed and attached to family material affairs. So Kala is described by Vidura here in the Srimad Bhagavatam to be insurmountable, very, very powerful, and it moves very imperceptibly. We all can remember our childhood when we were small children. We had one kind of a life. Gradually, time moved so imperceptibly, without even our knowing our consciousness. We became young, we came to middle age, and we also have come to old age. And old age is the final alarm bell that this is the last chance, the last opportunity to properly utilize the Manushya Janma, the human form of life, to become free from material bondage. And if one is not awakened to spiritual consciousness even in one's old age, then one's entire human life is wasted, is completely futile, is worthless. So In fact, the great devotee Prahlada later in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.1 instructs that Kaumaram acharet pragnyo dharman bhagavataniha. One must take up the path of spiritual life in the human form of life from the tender young age of 5 years. But if we are unable to do so, the final alarm bell is rung when we come to ripe old age. That is the last and final opportunity. So now Vidura begins his instructions. Vidurastadabhipretya Dhritarashtram abhashata Rajan nirghamyatam shighram pashyedam bhayamagatam. Dhritarashtra, you should now become alert, my dear king, immediately. Rajan nirghamyatam shighram. Shighram means immediately, very quickly. What should you do? The first thing Vidura is instructing is nirghamyatam. Leave everything, come out of this palace and give up all your material attachments and connections. So especially when one crosses even the last final stage, actually in the Vedic plan and scheme of lives, it is stated that Panchashogdvam Vanam Vrajet. At the age of 50 years, one should voluntarily give up one's material attachments and connections and take up the stage of Vanaprastha and completely devote and dedicate oneself to spiritual advancement. But if one has crossed, Dhritarashtra had already crossed that 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, even 100 years, and still he was rotting. He was rotting in material attachment to family affairs. So this was an emergency situation. So just like in emergency situation, one immediately has to rush the patient, simply bundle him into an ambulance and take him to the intensive care unit of a hospital. Likewise, Dhritarashtra now needed emergency intensive spiritual treatment. Not only Dhritarashtra, how many of us do require this intensive spiritual treatment? Many of us would have crossed the age of 50, 60, 70, 80 and are still completely absorbed in materialistic and family affairs, thinking that without me, how would things go on? There are even political leaders, people absorbed in not only in family affairs, political leaders who go on till the very, very ripe old age, thinking that without us, how would things go on? So, all such people like us do require this emergency intensive spiritual treatment as is being instructed by Vidura to Dhritarashtra. Please to remember here, Vidura is going to give some very, very strong and harsh instructions to Dhritarashtra and to each and every one of us. So what does he say? He says, do not delay, just see, bhayam agatam, such a great bhaya or danger has already overtaken you. Pratikriya na yasyeha kutaschid karhichid prabho sa esha bhagavan kalaha sarvesham na samagataha. This frightful situation cannot be remedied. Pratikriya, one cannot say, okay, there is some emergency situation, so let me take some medical treatment or go to some hospital or to some ICU. So this material disease of Bhava Roga. There is no hospital, there is no medical treatment in this entire world which can treat Bhava Roga, the disease of repeated birth and death, the Punarjanma Chakra. But is there a cure? Definitely there is, as is being instructed here by Vidura to Dhritarashtra. You cannot normally, in the ordinary way, cannot have a pratikriya or a remedy, a solution to this great fear. But this Supreme Kala, Sa Esha Bhagavan Kalaha, Sarvesham Na Samagataha. This insurmountable influence of Kala is going to overpower each and every one of us. So all of us are subject to the most powerful influence of Kala or time. One may be the most powerful personality or maybe the richest person in this world, but one cannot stop the influence of time or Kala. It is as there is the common proverb, time and tide wait for no man. Even in the Chanakya Niti, it is said that Swarna Kotibhihi, you cannot purchase Kala, even a moment of Kala, even by crores of rupees or crores of gold coins. Therefore, one should be very, very alert to this influence of time and hear properly and follow the instructions given by Vidura to Dhritarashtra. So, yena chaiva bhipannoyam prane priyatamairapi janasadyo viyujyeta kim utanyeg dhanadibihi. Sometimes people think that we can protect ourselves from the onslaught of the dangers of the fear of old age by a good bank balance, by a lot of wealth, by being surrounded by many loving and affectionate family members. And in this way, by many material arrangements and adjustments, we can protect ourselves and have a good time in our old age. But here Vidura is explaining the real truth that yena chaiva abhipannoyam prane priyatamer. The most valuable thing, priyatama, is our prana, our own life. Insurmountable Kala is not even going to leave us. It will snatch away mercilessly even our very life. And we foolish people think that dhanerapi, some wealth or our bank balance is going to protect us, some insurance is going to protect us. So all this insurance, wealth, family members, nothing can protect us from the influence of Kala brought about by old age and especially by the factor of death. So here Vidura is saying that things such as wealth, material, name and fame, children, land, home, janaha, sadyo, utanye dhanadibhi. So how can material possessions protect us from the insurmountable influence of Kala or time? He further says, Pitri bhratri suhrit putra gatas hataste vigatam vayam atma cha jaraya grastaha parageham upasase. All your relatives, your father, your brother, your well-wishers and sons are all dead and gone. They all have passed away. Except you yourself have come to this stage of ripe old age. You have expended the major portion of your life in fruitless and wasteful pursuits. Your body is now overtaken by jaraya grastaha, by invalidity, and yet you are shamelessly living in the palace of the Pandavas. Andhaha puraiva vadhiro manda pragnashcha sampratam vishirna danto mandagnihi saragaha udvahan. Dhritarashtra, look at your present condition. You have been blind from your birth. Andhaha puraiva, you already have been blind. Vadhiraha, recently you have become even almost deaf. Your memory has become very short. Manda pragnyaha cha sampratam vishigna danto. Your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth have fallen off. Mandagnihi, your liver is defective. You're coughing up mucus. Saragaha kafam udvahan. These are the conditions normally afflicted during the course of old age. Nowadays we have many, not only these simple characteristics, the simple afflictions of old age are these, that one becomes little hard of hearing, one's memory becomes very short. Old people cannot even remember what they had kept their keys somewhere. So these are all the simple symptoms and characteristics of old age. The teeth become loosened, the functions of the digestive system and the liver become defective, one keeps coughing up mucus. Today we are in fact afflicted by another hundreds and thousands and millions of more ailments, beginning from sugar from diabetes to blood pressure to heart ailments to arthritis to joint pain to all kinds of pains. And we are completely dependent on deadly drugs and medicines and treatment in order to somehow become free from these very, very painful afflictions. So what should be done? This is the situation of Dhritarashtra and all the modern present day Dhritarashtras like us. Vidura further says, Aho mahiyasi jantor jivita yatha bhavan bhima pavagjitam pindam adatte griha palavat. In this shloka, in 1.13.23, Vidura is in fact telling Dhritarashtra, you have become like a griha palavat, you have become like a dog in the home of the Pandavas. You are just living like a household dog. How powerful are your hopes for material well-being? You are continuing your life living like a dog, eating the remnants. Bhima apavagjitam pindam, you are eating the remnants of food thrown at you by Bhima. Vidura especially reminded Dhritarashtra of Bhima because Bhima had taken the vow before the battle of Mahabharata that he would personally kill all the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, and he did accomplish this task in the battle at Kurukshetra. Bhima personally killed Duryodhana and all the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. And today, shamelessly, Dhritarashtra was living in the home of Pandavas, taking the remnants of food thrown by Bhima, the murderer, the killer of all his sons. So, such a shameful existence. Vidura says, Agnirnisishto dattascha gharodarascha dushitaha hritam kshetram dhanam yesham taddatte rasubhikyat. There is no need to live such a most degraded life and subsist on the people whom you had tried to kill many times by arson, by setting fire, by poisoning. You also insulted their saintly wife Draupadi. You usurped their kingdom and wealth by deceitful means, and you are still living shamelessly in their home, on whom you had committed so many atrocities. So Vidura says this is very deplorable. Tasyapi tava dehoyam kripanasya jijivishoho paretyanichchato jigno jaraya vasasi iva. Despite your attachment and unwillingness to die, because no one wants to die, and your desire to live even at the cost of your honor and prestige, your miserly body will definitely dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. Jaraya vasasi iva. The body is explained even in the Bhagavad Gita 2.22 that vasamsi jignani yatha vihaya. The process of death is like the changing of old garments to new garments. So Vidura is explaining again to Dhritirashtra that you will have to give up your this material body very soon, and therefore you should now take the right steps in order to attain the highest goal and perfection of the human form of life. Now, coming to the remedial measures, the pratikriya, the solution. This is very important for all of us to understand, because this is also the solution to all our material problems, to all people like us who are materially attached and absorbed in material family affairs and have not yet begun the most important path of spiritual culture and advancement. Sometimes materialistic people think, they compare, they also say that so and so somebody had a very good and peaceful death. They say that that person who died, he had a lot of wealth, he died surrounded by many loving, affectionate family members. Such a death, when a person is on deathbed at his own home, surrounded by family members, such a death is regarded to be very special, to be very fortunate by materialistic people. But here, in the calculation of transcendentalists like Vidura, he says, shame on such a person, such an inglorious death it is. The real glorious death is, the real gloriously spiritual way of dying is. It's such a shameful thing, an inglorious thing. Till the last moment of your death, you were attached to material affairs and to material family members. That's the death of even the dogs and the animals on the street. They don't have any idea or conception of material detachment and liberation from material bondage, and being offered the human form of life, which is the only chance and opportunity for liberation from material bondage. And even till the last moment of your death, you have been materially attached. Shame on such an inglorious death. This is the normal death which most of the people greatly aspire for, because nowadays death usually comes in even more deplorable and wretched ways. In the ICU, in a hospital, without any consciousness. So, what to speak? It is not even shameful. It is the worst way of dying, which not even the animals die in that manner. The most artificial way of we have created the human society in the name of advancement of healthcare. We have created the most artificial and the most degraded way of dying. So, the real good way of dying is taught here in the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In 1.13.26, Gata swartham imam deham virakto mukta bandhanaha avijnata ghatir jahyat savai dhira udahritaha. A sober, undisturbed dhira. A person can be told that he is a dhira. This word is also used in the Bhagavad Gita 2.13 by Krishna, that dhira statra namuhyati. One should, as a human being, at least come to the point of becoming dhira, an undisturbed person from material influences by material disturbances. So, glorious is the death of a person who goes to an unknown place, a remote place, avijnata ghatir jahyat, and freed from all material connections. He quits his material body after undergoing spiritual progress and advancement. Why do we have to depend? Why should we think that if we become old and sick, what will happen without any proper medical care, without any proper treatment by some hospitals, in some ICU? Actually, it's the most painful and wretched way of dying. If we take up the path of spiritual life, if we surrender to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, do you think the Supreme Lord would not appreciate the sacrifice of his devotee and not teach him and give him the right direction, the right protection at the time of death? What faith do we have then, calling ourselves to be spiritualists or as devotees? We should learn from the example of Parikshit Maharaj. He was given just 7 days of time to live, and then he had to die. What did he do? Did he go to some kind of adjustment or a material setup of some hospital or somewhere to protect himself in various ways to avoid dying? He in fact gave up all material connections. This we'll be seeing in the first canto later. The most ideal way and path of how to die. So he gave up everything and heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami and has taught us what is the right way to die without the least of fear. Fear of death is experienced by the lowly species like animals. The human form of life is meant to make spiritual advancement by which, by the time death approaches us, we should become fearless, and death should be fearful of a advanced spiritualist or a transcendentalist. Further, Vidura says, Yasvakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottamaha. He is a first class person or narottama who awakens and understands the spiritual value of life either by himself or from others. He understands the illusory and false nature of this material world, of this samsara, and thus leaves home and takes up vanaprastha and later sannyasa, but most importantly hridi kritva harim, by placing the Supreme Lord Shri Hari Krishna in the core of one's heart. One gives up all attachment to material life and goes to the forest or to a remote place to completely dedicate himself to the spiritual culture of life. In today's modern world, even if it may not be practical to give up householder life and go to the forest or to the Himalayas like Vidura is instructing here, at least the minimum that we should do is go to Vrindavana, the supreme abode of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, and completely take shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Or minimum, wherever we are, now give up our material attachments and absorption in material affairs and take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Shri Shri Radha Krishna. This is the right way of auspiciousness and the greatest well-wishing advice that we can ever receive. So Vidura says, Atha udicim disham yatu swairagyata gatir bhavan itorva prayashakalaha pumsam gunavikarshanaha. Please therefore immediately leave for the north towards the Himalayas without letting your relatives know, for soon the time will approach when Kali Yuga would begin and also your death is very, very imminent. So in this way, being advised and inspired and instructed by Vidura, Evam Raja Vidurena Anujena, Vidura was Anuja, the younger brother of Dhritarashtra, yet he acted as the guru, as the spiritual master of Dhritarashtra. He immediately Dhritarashtra became firmly convinced by the prajna bodhitam, by the spiritual instructions given by Vidura. He at once broke the strong network of material affection by his resolute determination, and he immediately left home. Along with Vidura, he was also followed by Patim Prayantam Subalasya Putri. Subalasya Putri is the daughter of Subala, or his good wife Gandhari. Gandhari also accompanied Vidura and Dhritarashtra on their spiritual quest to attain the supreme perfection of life, liberation or moksha. So, without letting any of their relatives know, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Vidura left home and they went to the north towards Dakshinena Himavata, towards the southern region of the Himalayas. So next day, when Yudhishthira came to the palace of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari to offer his respects and obeisances, he was alarmed to find them missing, and he immediately approached their secretary, the secretary of Dhritarashtra, that is Gavalgana, the son of Gavalgana, that is Gavalgana, that is Sanjaya. So he approached Sanjaya and anxiously inquired about the whereabouts of his uncles and aunt, about Dhritarashtra and Vidura as well as Gandhari. So at that time, even Sanjaya expressed that although Dhritarashtra confided everything to me, but this time he has cheated me by just going away without informing me. So even I am not aware of the whereabouts of Gandhari, Dhritarashtra and Vidura. So at that time, when Yudhishthira was afflicted with great grief that maybe they have left being offended by me or by the Pandavas. So at that time, in order to pacify Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas, arrived there the great sage Athajagama Bhagavan Naradaha Sahatumburuhu Pratyuttha utthaya bhivadyaha sanujobhyarchayan munim. There arrived the great sage Narada, accompanied by Tumburu, and at that time Yudhishthira and his brothers, the Pandavas, received him, worshipped him, and Yudhishthira expressed to Narada, Yudhishthira uvacha naham veda gatim pitror bhagavan kva gatavitaha, that my dear Narada, I do not know where my fathers Vidura and Dhritirashtra have gone away, nor do I know where has Gandhari gone. So Amba cha hataputragta kvagata cha tapasvini, I do not find my ascetic aunt who is greatly grief-stricken by the loss of all her sons in the battle of Kurukshetra. So at that time, Karnadhara iva pare Bhagavan Paradarshakaha Athabhabhashe Bhagavan Narado Munisattamaha. The great sage Devarshi Narada gave his very, very important and beautiful instructions spiritual instructions to give spiritual enlightenment to Yudhishthira and all the Pandavas. So in this 13th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find very, very valuable spiritual instructions given by two great spiritual personalities, one by Vidura from 1.13.18 to 1.13.28, and now here in 1.13.41 to 1.13.50, given by Narada. So Narada says, Narada uvacha ma kanchana shucho rajan yadishvaravasham jagat loka sapala yasyeme vahanti balimishituhu sa samyunakti bhutani sa eva viyunakti cha. Narada first instructed Yudhishthira and the Pandavas not to have any aggrievement, not to lament for anyone, because everyone are the source of our great grief and lamentation in this material world is our attachment to our material relationships. But Narada here explains that all the relationships in this material world are temporary and everyone is under the control of supreme Kala or time. So people come together and they get separated, just like straws in water that come together by the influence of waves. So some waves may bring together some 15, 20 or 100 straws together. But it is a sagara, it is an ocean, so where waves keep continually coming and another wave would scatter all these straws apart, never to meet again. Such is the temporary nature of all the relationships in this material world. We think that our relationship with our father, mother, with our parents, with our kinsmen, with our brothers, with our sisters, with our husband, with our wife, with our children, this is all in all of our life. We have made all these relationships as the all and all of our life. Even our relationship with our dog, with our car, with our laptop, with our smartphone, we have made it as the all in all. But all these relationships are like the coming together of straws in an ocean. This material world is compared to a sagara, and just like there are waves and straws may come together, but that kind of a coming together is momentary. Another wave would come and disperse, would scatter all these straws apart. Likewise, we all come together as in the name of different relationships as father, mother, brother, sister, husband, wife, children, and all these relationships come together. In the ocean, maybe it is for a few moments, and here it may be for 20, 30, 60 or 70 or 100 years, but another wave of Kala would come and completely scatter us apart, never to meet again. Such is the momentary and temporary nature of material relationships, in which our consciousness is completely absorbed in the current state of affairs. So Narada gives us very valuable and important instructions to all of us not to have too much material absorption and material attachment to material relationships. He says, Tasma jahyanga vaiklavyam ajnana kritamatmanaha. This attachment to material relationships is nothing but ajnana kritamatmanaha, is the forebearer of ignorance. It is the symptom of great ajnana or ignorance. So in this way, by giving philosophical instructions to the Pandavas, then Narada Muni reveals the actual whereabouts of Dhritarashtra, what has happened to his uncles and to his aunt. So he explains that Dhritarashtra saha bhratra Gandharya स्वभार्यया दक्षिणेन हिमवता ऋषीणाम आश्रमम गतः. Your uncle Dhritarashtra, Vidura and Gandhari have gone to the Dakshinena Himavata, to the southern side of the Himalayan mountains, to the ashrama, to the hermitage of great sages. Specifically, he will reveal the place where they have gone to be in 1.13.52 as Srotobhihi saptabhiryavai svagdhuni saptadhavyadhat saptanam pritaye nana saptasrotah prachakshate. Dhritarashtra, Vidura and Gandhari have gone to the place known as Saptasrota or Sapta Sarovara, which is even today located. This place called Sapta Sarovara is located in Haridwar. In Haridwar, even today there is a place called Sapta Sarovara, which is the exact spot where the water of the sacred Ganga divided into 7 branches, because the 7 sages, the 7 great sages, Atri, Pulaha, so they are described later in the Srimad Bhagavatam. They had sat, and in order to honor them, the Ganga divided itself into 7 branches and went around the 7 sages. So this place is called as Sapta Sarovara, and this was the place where Dhritarashtra and Vidura went to the Sapta Rishi Ashrama. So after going there, Narada explains that by intense spiritual practices, Dhritarashtra, under the guidance of Vidura, in just 5 days, Dvastamaya Gunodarka Dvastamaya Gunodarka Niruddha Karanashayah Nivartita Khilahara Saaste Vigateshanaha Tasyantarayo Maiva Bhu Sanyasta Khila Karmanaha Sava Adyatanad Rajan Parataha Panchame Ahani. In just the 5th day from today, Sava Ad Kalevaram Hasyati Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyati. Dhritarashtra would have the yogic fire by which he would attain the perfection of spiritual life. He would attain perfection in his spiritual practices, and in 5 days he would even give up his body and attain moksha, liberation. And at that time, Dahyamane Gnibhirdehe Patihu Patni Sahotaje Bahishthita Patim Sadhvi Tam Agnim Anuvekshyati. while observing her great husband Dhritirashtra attaining moksha, liberation in this way, even Gandhari completely in rapt attention, she would also enter the burning cottage, the burning thatched cottage, and would give herself to those burning flames and also attain the same destination as Dhritarashtra, which means that even Gandhari would attain moksha or liberation. And about Vidura, Vidurastu tadaschcharyam nishamya kurunandana harsha shokayutastasmad ghanta tirtha nishevakaha. Vidura was astonished at the very quick tadaschcharyam. He was astonished at the rapid spiritual perfection attained by Dhritarashtra. He was harsha shoka yutaha. He was affected by both harsha, great happiness, as well as shoka, grief, at the destination of Dhritarashtra. And he left again, he left that place of pilgrimage, he went away. So what would happen to Vidura would be explained in the next chapter, in the 15th chapter. But here it is very important to understand that Vidura was affected by both harsha and shoka, by both happiness and grief. He was happy that Dhritarashtra and Gandhari attained moksha, but he was also shoka. He was sad because Dhritarashtra could not attain the highest level of moksha or liberation. Actually, there are many stages of liberation starting from Sayujya Mukti. So, Dhritarashtra could attain only the ordinary stage of liberation, being liberated from all material bondage. But beyond complete liberation from material bondage, the higher stages of liberation are to be situated for the liberated Jivatma to reconnect oneself to the Supreme Brahman, to the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So, that are the higher levels of liberation in the various prema rasas of Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. So those eternal relationships with the Supreme Lord after moksha were not attained by Dhritarashtra. He just attained the first level, the ordinary stage of liberation. So he attained that, for which Vidura was happy, but he could not attain the higher levels of liberation. So that was a cause of sadness and grief to Vidura. So in this way, Ityuktva atha aruhat swargam naradaha saha tumburuhu yudhishthiro vachastasya hridi kritva ajahat shuchaha. In this way, Narada ascended into outer space, and Yudhishthira kept the instructions given by Narada in his heart, and in this way was completely able to rid of all lamentation, of all sense of guilt that may be due to his offense his uncles and aunt had left away. So in this way, the 13th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam has this very beautiful narration of the attainment of the supreme goal of liberation by Dhritarashtra and by Gandhari, and also contain the very valuable spiritual instructions given by Vidura and Narada. So if you have any questions about today's subject matter, you are most welcome to post them in the WhatsApp group or in the comments box in the YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please do join us tomorrow for the continuation of the very wonderful narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.